How's it going, Scrub Gamers? Welcome back to another video here at Scrub Games, and today we have a set-free tier list. I thought I'd do this at well, this is near enough the beginning of the format, and just basically going over how I feel like the leaders are, in a sense, where they've kind of gone. There are some that aren't great, and there's some that are pretty good, but now Boba is suspended out the way. The meta is kind of completely open. Like, there are some decks that are stronger than others and are making more appearance, but then there are a lot more options and more things doing well than just having every flavor of Boba shown about. So I thought I'd go over this at the start of the format, and then we'll do one at the end like I normally do. And we've also changed up the meta, well, the tiers as well, because we've got meta, which, if you don't know, it's a anagram, and it stands for most effective tactics available. So that is the meta. That's like the top decks, like the most effective tactics, like how Boba was before. So that's the top one. Then we got, just on the note, we've got the solid contenders, ones that may not be the most effective tactics, but are very strong, and you see them come about. Like the meta decks are the ones that you essentially build your deck to combat when you go to a big event, and are like expecting to play against during the event, and are looking to beat. Solid contenders are those decks that are very strong, not the most effective tactics, but still do pretty well and can like fight with them, like can hang with the meta decks. Then you have the rogue decks, and those are the ones that do still do well, but you don't see as often in the game. And yeah, you don't see them do as you don't see them as often. They still do well, some like here and there that you see sometimes pop up, sometimes they don't. And they're ones that like you don't expect, and like kind of what's it called, I can't remember what the word is now for it. The surprise factor. I said the surprise factor can get you wins it and help you like top or maybe win an event, which is pretty nice. Then we have the next one now. We have the casual decks, the ones you take the locals, you play casually for fun. That you don't really expect to do well or do great, but you can have fun with it and still play it casually at your locals and still do alright with it. Maybe win a locals or top of locals, that kind of thing. And you got the last one, which have kind of changed from before, like Jar Jar Binks Banner changed it to not really playable. And these are the leaders that you probably have never seen play, or rarely ever see play. Like once at the full moon, you'll see them played, but they don't really do anything because either there's a deck or many decks that do it what it wants to do it better, or they're just not great either now or just not at all. And there will be something going into this, so we'll kind of see. Now, before we get into this, don't feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Keeps you updated with my videos as and when they drop, and by clicking the notification bell, you can get alerts for when they do drop. And let's get into this tier list and kind of see where we're going to put everything down. So we're going to start off with the blue leads. So this is the start off with the we're going to order like color, so we go on the dark side of blue, and we got Krennic. And Krennic, what can I really say about Krennic? Krennic's one that I don't personally think is that great, but it has been shown results are still doing well, and it is a pretty nice one for the, like, potentially most of the blue leads are played with the, dark blue leads are played with command, and they get the best for like control and mid-range stuff from that aspect combo, because you got the healing in both of them, and you get some powerhouses in them as well. And I think Krennic is probably the better one of all these. Yeah, I'd say it's probably a solid contender that you could probably actually like compete with the rest of the meta decks in that aspect combo and actually do pretty well. Probably like lower end of solid contenders, but he is pretty nice because that effect to kind of turn anything that's weakened, like damaged, into being stronger is pretty cool. And also the fact that he comes down and has that restore and a big amount of bulk on him as well when he deploys is pretty handy. And his aspect combos are pretty nice. So that's where I feel Krennic is. Next we've got Iden, and Iden is one that I'm more playing in Rogue. That's because mainly with Iden, I more think of her as like a focus on mill, because she's got a very nice option of mill going double blue, and also having a healing built into a lead as well, and quite a deploy with a shield on as well, which you can get some pretty nice plays out of mill deck. But mill is not not a win condition in this game, which is unfortunate. But it's a way to kind of try and win, because once you deck out your opponent, they can start taking damage because they can't draw, and you just wait for that damage. But she does a lot better during the control decks, attacks, and unless we're in like a heavy control format, she might not do as great with that. Like against aggro, she can kind of struggle with those, but I think she is a rogue that can still do pretty well if you're a dedicated player on her, kind of thing. Next we have Gar Saxon, and this is one that probably hasn't seen much play, but he does have some really cool stuff. Like this is one that I'm stuck with. Like I know he's not a meta deck, we know that. He not really a solid contender, but it's split between if I think he's rogue or casual, because I think he can do pretty well, and he's got some pretty nice options given. Like he's a Mandalorian, he's also I think it's Imperial trait. I can't remember which trait he has. I think it's the dark side trait. But he also has the option to with his aspect combinations pretty well in those, and you can build him quite well in double blue. Like you've got a fun second chance build in double blue. You also got good in command like the rest of them do. You got a good one in yellow as well, because there's some good upgrades that focus on his ability in yellow, and also you got a pretty nice way to play him in red as well. And I feel he could be a pretty nice rogue there, probably like a little bit less than Iden, but still potential rogue, because you can potentially get some wins with it if your opponent's not expecting, like look at him and go, okay, what's this do? And then not know like about some aspect combinations for him. And I feel he can potentially top, like maybe not win, but do some topping in some events if you could put some effort into it, because he is pretty nice from his like stats and his ability as well. Then we have Qi'ra, which is probably most people probably expect this to be the best of the options for a leader with green on them, because of the fact that she's got a pretty nice effect, and she's got a nice way to kind of take down leaders a little bit easier. And while she is pretty nice, like after testing her, and like I haven't really tested Krennic much, but I feel like in terms of like what they do, Qi'ra kind of is a little bit less than Krennic. I'd say Krennic's a little bit higher than Qi'ra, I would say, just because like she's got a nice effect, but like Krennic just has that nicer thing of like just making things stronger and having that like heal to him as well with like on the leader, and also coming down and being a little bit bulkier, whereas she's like comes down and she's technically a 4/4 leader that can potentially take out leaders a little bit easier on a deploy. Like her main feature is the deploying, doing damage to everything equal to their health, half their health rounded down. And if you get a leader that's like a 7 health or odd number like that, it rounds down a little bit less. It's a little bit harder to take out. And like she has a nice effect to shield things up, but I think it's kind of outdated for what it is at the moment. Then we have Nala Se, and this is one that probably the earliest deploying of these leaders at 4 resources, and gives you something that the rest of them don't by giving you a bigger card pool due to the fact that she can give you access to clones, because clones, because she's got same as she's got a deck building effect just like Hera, where you can play out clones without the aspect penalty. Well, not a deck building one, but you technically it is, but allowing you to play clones without wearing the aspect penalty. And that gives some nice options, because having access to things like Omega does search for these clones, and some viability of clones, like got Batch Brothers to put 2 units on board for free resources. You've got tech, so you can smuggle things in from your resources with thanks to tech, which the other ones can't do. You've also got Wrecker as well. Wrecker, you have access to Wrecker's a pretty nice one there as well, like a unit that you don't really see, you don't ever see in the other these aspect combos. And also you have access to Wolf as well. You can play Wolf to kind of stop opposing decks from healing as well, which is nice. And while she is pretty nice in like having access to the good aspects, access to clones, which the other ones don't have, she's not. Does not offer more than that. Like that's her all effect is that you can play clones, and then when she's deployed, clones then start healing you when they're defeated. But that's not enough compared to everyone, especially with her stats being 1/7. She can stay around pretty easy, but she doesn't offer much more in terms of the effect of those guys. That's why I think she's casual, because you can play fun builds with her, which I've got a fun deck built for her with the using clones and go with green as well, and the droid manufacturing base to have some access to like exploit stuff. But outside of like she can play fun casually, like she's a lot of fun, but I don't think she is going to be doing that great at events unless you're dedicated. But then whatever you do with her, she can do the other ones probably a lot better. Just you get access to say Wrecker and Tech, probably the best things you can get access to her from her effects. Then that brings us to the last one, Nute Gunray, and he is playable. He is playable. Like, none of these are not playable. They're all playable in a sense. But Nute, I'm not sure if he'd be a rogue, because he has a nice effect where you can create a clone trooper token if no, not a clone trooper token, sorry, a droid token, whenever 2 of your units are defeated in a turn on his leader side, and on his deploy, every time he swings, he's creating you that token for like exploit fodder. But at the moment, the exploit stuff isn't that impressive. I can get some big units, but most of them don't have many effects, or the stats outweigh, like the stats are less than the cost unless you exploit, which makes them a little bit better if you are exploiting. But then if he's only giving you like potentially one extra droid a turn, and then for fodder, and also 2 on his deploy turn, but then it's like 6 resources. So I think he's more of a casual one, and I say like Nalase is probably a lot more fun, probably do a little bit more than he can as well. Even though he can provide fodder, Nalase can do it a little bit quicker with thanks to a quicker deploy as well, with options as well. So I think Nute is probably like the lower on the tier for these dark side blue leaders. So those are all the blue leaders. So we've got the Qi'ra and Krennic as solid contenders. We got Iden and Gar Saxon, that's the one, as rogue decks, and then we got Nalase and Nute Gunray as the casual leaders. So that's those. Now let's have a look at the light side of the blue now. And that's going to start us off with Chewbacca. And Chewbacca, straight away, I put him in casual. I put him as more casual because I'm putting casuals more at ones that are fun than like viability, but the rest of them will do viability. But like casual, like what you're going to have fun with at locals, and Chewbacca can be a lot of fun. You can play it like a Wookiee focus, but then you're going to have to put it in green so you can actually ramp and get Chewbacca out. But you still have a good amount of like Wookiees and just heroic side, and some in blue as well. There's 3 in blue, and there's a fair few in the heroic side. But then like if you want to play him tribal Wookiee, Chewbacca could be handy, and even then that combination of blue green is a good combination to have even for the light side as well. So I thought Chewbacca is there in casual. Next, we have my all-time favorite leader, especially my favorite leader from set 1, and that is Chirrut. And I'm going to straight away put him in rogue, and I'm going to put him potentially higher than, put the highest at the moment from these. I feel like it's going to be biased. You can probably take it as maybe a little biased from me, but Chirrut is a very good deck, and he is one of the heroic blue leaders to have as a force leader that has access to a good option for the force stuff. Like with him, you can play him very well in double blue for a nice like having to then pay vigilance for 4 rather than 6, and have good like a lot better options in like double blue now and just blue in general, thanks to a few more sets. You can play him with the Tarkin Town build, having the same as how like Rey, Yoda, Luke, and like Obi-Wan, all those force leaders have, where they basically make use of Tarkin Town and also have like Force Throws, very good card. And you can also play him in yellow now a lot better, like he was played in set 2 from what I've seen in yellow, but now you've got better options for him with more good yellow cards to go with him. Also thanks to what's the card called? Now there are 2 of them to give him a boost as well. And his effect to basically just not be killable by damage when he's deployed. It's very handy because if you can keep him around, or even put things like shadow intentions on it, makes so he's then can't be KO'd by anything unless damage, but have to wait till your turn, makes him unkillable. And even then, if there's not a deck, like if the deck you're playing against is not blue, who have instant removal effects, or I think that's it. If you're not playing against blue, it's going to be a lot harder for you to take it out if you keep healing up, and you can do that a lot. You can do it really well with blue, which is his aspects. Next we have Luke, and I feel like Luke is also a rogue deck. Not a solid contender, but a rogue deck, because you don't really see him do much. Like, you haven't seen him like top many things for a good while, but you see him top every now and then. And he has a very nice option in some of the aspects. That you can play him in red, yellow as well, playing double blue. But like, I think his main focus is playing green, and that's pretty nice because you get the access to playing the Alliance Dispatcher on turn 1 and then shielding it, so you can then start playing out units a little bit quicker, a bit earlier than you normally would. And it's also in the ramp aspect as well, so you can get the ramp, but mainly be able to have an Alliance Dispatcher out and have it shielded, so that way you can then go ahead and keep playing out things a little bit earlier. Is really, really solid. So I feel like that's a good deck. You can take the rogue, so your opponent won't expect, and you can potentially take down people that are don't expect that or can't deal with it. And if they can't deal with it, if they're a space focus unit and they can't deal with the Alliance Dispatcher, with the shield, then you're going to be playing out bigger things. And then when you deploy Luke, just then throw a shield on him. And also you have his lightsaber to put down and shield him up as well, and healing completely if they do damage to him. It's pretty nice there. Next we have Finn, and this is going to be our first one for the not really viable. And that's because while he can be played, it just takes way too much effort than it's worth, and he doesn't really benefit you unless you play him in green. Because if you play him in green, you get access to something mentor. Is a upgrade. It's like something mentor you can put on him, and then every time you attack or when you're defeated, like what the unit's attached to, you give an experience to something, and then you can use if you do so on attack, you can attack with him with that equipped to him. So you can trigger the upgrade first to then put I think it's an experience on something, and then have Finn knock that experience straight off and put a shield and like switch it for a shield, which can be pretty handy. But then you're essentially just, if you're doing that, then you're essentially just playing a worse Luke, because you're playing a Luke, but then you put an extra cards in just to facilitate him being Luke when he's not, and that isn't great. Like if you're going to play that focus, you might as well play Luke. And outside of that green version, there's not really any other version that's great with him. So I feel like he's our first not really playable leader. And then after him, right next to him, we got Rey, and Rey is probably a solid contender, and I would say maybe better than these two, because she's got a nice option of having the typical blue heroic leader with Tarkin and have those like access to Force Throw and some other good Force cards. But the nice thing she has like a benefit over like Luke and Chirrut is that when she's deployed, she now has restored 3, meaning that every time she's swinging, she's healing 3, and the longer she sticks about, the longer she's healing. So she's got that nice ability there. And also she can power up units as well. Like you got good options to play her in all the aspects. Like with any heroic blue leader, you got all the aspects to play them in. That could be pretty solid. But then she's got some like benefits just in the form of her healing, as well as just being able to boost units up as well. Like while Luke can give things shields, she can give things like smaller things a little bit more power, a little bit more sustainability. And there's a lot of little things that have very low health very low power that she can then benefit from, because a unit needs to have a certain amount of power to get a boost from her. But those ones with very little power that are cheap are normally like very bulky, meaning they're even bulkier, and then they're starting to hit a little bit harder, which then becomes a problem for any deck. So I feel like she is a solid contender. Then we have Obi-Wan, and I'm going to put him straight there next to Luke. Yeah, I'm going to put him a little bit higher than Luke, and that's just because not only is he a Force unit just like Luke and deploys on the same turn, but he's Sentinel, so he then protects your arena rather than just shielding things up. So like Luke can put a Sentinel down and shield it up with his effect, whereas Obi-Wan comes out as a Sentinel, and where he's a Jedi as well, where Luke, the leader unit, isn't a Jedi, and Obi-Wan is, he can get access to not just Jedi lightsaber, but also things like the really nice card General's Blade, which is a very cool one. Like that's the big benefit from him, is that outside, like other than like he's got a benefit over Rey, Chirrut, and Luke in the form that he can get General's Blade to go ahead and just give him the same kind of stats, increasing by 3/3. But now you're making things come in cheaper, and it's by 2 rather than just 1. Like a Alliance Dispatcher can bring things out for 1 cheaper than its normal cost, but it's got to be on the board, it's got to tap and survive, whereas Obi-Wan with a General's Blade, it's going to be harder to kill because he's a leader unit, and he's buffed up as well, because he again goes from a 4/7 to a 7/10, so it's a lot harder to kill, and they're forcing the opponent to go into him, which they're normally suiciding units into him, and then when they swing and he's just playing things that are cheaper, and the longer he's about, the more he's basically getting that benefit of playing things cheaper and getting you bigger things out or more things out quickly. And then we have Yoda, and Yoda, I feel, is a meta deck, I would say. Because you've got all different builds you can have them. You've got the double blue build for healing as well. I think he's got all the benefits, he's one of those he's the last of the blue heroic blue Force units. And he's got the benefits of being a Jedi as well. so he's got the benefits of General's Blade, but he's also got a great effect of being able to filter your decks. Anytime a unit either yours or the opponent leaves play, he can tap himself to draw a card and then put a card back on top of bottom of your deck, facilitating some really nice plays with like things like Your My Only Hope. Also with his own effect, of deployed effect, where he's deployed most top card of your deck, and then defeat something that's not a leader that's got a cost equal to or less than it. So you've got removal on his built in, and also he's never on his force units, just like Rey. That's got restore, so he basically comes down and he starts swinging and healing from your base as well. Not as much as Rey, but almost as much as Rey, being restore 2s that are free. And all that was basically like all the best things combined out of those put together in like it is a later deploy, but you can kind of ramp up for that. With green, if you put him with green, otherwise if you put him with any color, he will deploy later, but you get some good benefits from them as well, and then play him a bit more control. So I feel like he is more of the meta contender out of those blue decks, and that finishes blue. So for blue, we can see we've got what I feel is the meta deck is Yoda. Then some solid contenders are Rey, Krennic, and Qi'ra. And then we've got our rogue decks, which are Chirrut, Iden, Obi-Wan, Luke, and Gar. Then we got our casual leaders, being Nalase, Chewbacca, and Nute. And then we have our first and only currently not really playable leader, being Finn. So now moving on to the green leaders, we're going to start off with the dark side, start with the dark side, then go to the light side like we do with the blue ones. And we've got Palpatine. And straight away, putting that in meta, because he's a meta deck, and I feel like a little bit higher than Yoda, because he's got almost as many playable combos as Yoda, where you got the yellow one, which is amazing, blue and green, which are all topped and done very, very well. And the only version you got that isn't the best or isn't the most playable of them is red, but still he's got some solid options. And like with like the only really downside he has is aggro, but he's got some great options. Like you got yellow allowing you to use things like change of heart and stuff to take control your opponent's units and then kill them off with his effect. And then you've got green, which allows you to have some like the maximum amount of ramp really, with like adding command to it as well, and some strong units in his actual aspects. And then blue to go focus on a more heavy control focus for him. And like since we've seen him actually do well, and if you've tried him, he is actually fantastic. Like the only downside is aggro might be able to take you down before you can get to that point, but you can always work your deck around to help combat and deal a little bit easier with aggro to make for an easy time to get to his deploy. Because once he deploys, you normally swing the game in your favor and then take control from there. Next, we've got Grand Moff Tarkin, and this one I feel is in everyone's rogue decks, and I feel it could be. I feel it's like obviously they put there a little bit less than Chirrut, but better than Iden. And like Grand Moff Tarkin is pretty cool. Like he's got the main focus of him is at the moment with the yellow build, with the spaceship focus, because most of them in the dark side are Imperials. So getting the ones like the one that can't be defeated, I can't remember what the name of it is, that can be defeated or captured or damaged by effects. That's an Imperial one, so you can power it up, and then if that gets to a point where it's very very high in terms of its power and health, it's even harder to take out, because the only way you can do it is by bouncing it or attacking into it, and you're not going to get much out of attacking into it if it's huge, and unless you play like yellow, you can't really bounce it, so you're going to have a hard time dealing with it as you just keep powering it up. So I think like it's very good as rogue that can catch you off, but it's one that might have struggle maybe a little bit with the higher decks, but is one that you can probably get some surprise wings your opponent doesn't know about it. Next we have Hondo, and this is one that we got in set 2 that came with the whole mechanic of smuggling in, and was like the kind of key one with smuggle, because its effect is all focusing around that keyword. And it is one that I thought wasn't that great when it was released, because there didn't seem to be too many smuggle cards, and the ones we did have seemed a little bit lackluster, a little bit. Like there wasn't too many, and I felt like he didn't have enough to kind of benefit from them. But I was proven wrong, because good old Big O managed to take hold of it, because he loves his pirates, and Hondo is a pirate, and he likes to take decks that have like his favorite kind of interactions or like mechanics, like playing from your resources, and focus on them, and sort him out to be a build that suits his playstyle and his kind of understanding of the game, and just actually put in results with him, which he has done with it. And this is one that, since then, I kind of seen that it is actually a pretty good deck, and I feel it is a pretty good rogue deck. And I will put it a little bit high, like probably the top of the rogue decks at the moment here, because it just, like, you mainly play it blue, because then you've got the good amount of control, because you've got good aspects as well. Any blue or green leader, when partnered with the other one, so blue with green and green with blue, and the dark side have a great combo in that one, because of all the nice like removal, like cards to deal with it, like Overwhelm Barrage. You've got things like Power Dark Side, and you've got some very good units as well for that combo. And Hondo makes the benefit of that, plus has some benefits of the smuggling as well, to kind of have that early game advantage that most of them lack. Next we have Jabba, and Jabba is one that I thought would be actually pretty good and a nice deck to play, but then it was outshadowed by Boba in his aspect combo, because you mainly want to play it in yellow to have access with things like I can't remember the name of the guy now. Is the 7-drop guy that can play out a unit you've captured under your control. I can't remember his name now, but you know when you want to play in him, and then Jabba also being able to kind of put bounties on cards that kind of make use of the bounty mechanic came out in set 2, and then on deploy basically try and capture one of your opponent's units by choosing one, capturing it, and then you can use that with its leader side effect to then play something next for a little bit cheaper, and when he's out, make something 2 cheaper if you claim the bounty that he puts on a unit, which is cool. So make use of those bounties, and a pretty nice combo there. But it didn't do anything because of Boba, but now Boba's gone, that aspect combo is kind of open to kind of test. And even though I feel like there's different ways to do it. Like Tarkin is more of like an aggro aggressive kind of version of that aspect combo, and then Palpatine is more of a control version of that. And then Cad Bane, that's the one, is kind of a more mid-range version of that. But I feel like Jabba does have an option with that, and I feel he is rogue, but he might be a little bit lower. I'd say like underguard, like bottom of rogue deck, or like rogue at the moment, but being a rogue that you can potentially put some effort in, try it out, because he does have some pretty cool things in the yellow and green side of dark, and his effect can to basically capture something, can make use of that mechanic, but it's not the most competitive mechanic though, is the only thing. Next we have Moff Gideon, and this is one that I haven't really seen do anything, but it seems to be more of an aggressive version. But the thing is with this, is I'm going to put it as not really playable, because what it wants to do with any unit, Grand Moff Tarkin will do better. Like Grand Moff Tarkin will do better than what Moff Gideon wants to do. He's like the better Moff, essentially. Like if you want to play him in any aspect, like there's going to be someone doing better. And if you want to play him on the blue, you've got better versions in just Palpatine for more control focused. Like even Hondo will do better what he wants to do. In yellow or red, you're going to have something better in Jabba and Moff Gideon. If you want to play him in double green, he can be beaten out by say like Palpatine, or even some of these other ones like Wat Tambor. Wat Tambor could beat him out for that as well. So I feel like he's more of a not really playable one. Like you could try to play it, but you're more going to be playing this leader if you're like a huge fan of the character or the actor who plays him, rather than what the deck does. Then we come on to Count Dooku. So this is one that people do really like, and I feel this is nicely, like, it makes use of the exploit mechanic, the new exploit mechanic we got out, so you can like exploit more things. But it's got, just like with Hondo, it's got more focus on separatists, and I don't feel there's as many great separatists as you want to use this with, really. And even then, the ones that are separatists that don't have exploit, there's not that many that are great. And even then, you're exporting more units off, unless you can like spam the board of tokens, which is a little bit hard to do. You're not going to get as much benefit from these. You think exploit could be good in that you're getting off your tiny little units. You can bring out all these like droid tokens and then bring out bigger things. But the bigger things you're dropping out aren't really that impressive. They're either vanillas that have big stats for their cost, or they don't have the greatest effect. Well, they have an effect, but it's like not many of them have like more than a one-time use effect, and then the stats are not the greatest for their cost. So I feel like he's more of a casual one, probably better than Nute Gunray. Probably better than Chewbacca as well, but I'd say a little bit less than Nate, as a one you can play quite fun casually, but not all that impressive in my view. Then we have the last one for the dark side being Wat Tambor, and this is one that like he could be pretty cool as a deck, but once again, like if you want to play in like a more aggro focus or anything like that, Grand Moff Tarkin's gonna do better than him. But I feel he is playable. He has like some good options, but I feel he's more of a casual leader. So we put him there, and probably might be better to be a little bit higher than Nute Gunray. I think the same thing, quite casual there, but I don't think he's higher than a casual leader for the in terms of his effect. Like he can have like a very good deploy turn, but he isn't offering much more than some of the other leaders want to do. And in the aspect combos, they're kind of doing it a little bit better than that. So that brings us for the dark side of green. We've got Palpatine joining in the meta, the meta tier. We've got more rogue picks in terms of like Hondo, Moff Tarkin, and Jabba. And then we've got Dooku and Wat Tambor in the casual tier. And then we got Moff Gideon joining Finn in the not really playable tier. So now we're going to move on to the heroic side and see what we get from this. And let's see what we got. So start off with Hera, and Hera straight away is going in casual because she's got that nice casual ability where like you can you got the Spectres, and the Spectres are like some like favorite characters of like people because you got the whole series around the Star Wars Rebels, and she offers something unique. Well, unique until now. It's came about that you can play things like ignoring the aspect penalty, and there are some really good Spectre cards, and bring them all together. The only problem is she hasn't got many aspect combos that's great for her, but she has some pretty cool like combos though. If you check out my updated how to build Hera Syndylla, which I've gone over from Wednesday, you can see I've gone over a little bit more, explain like a little bit better on how to play her, like prefer like aspect combos that are playable with her, and some like lists for it to go with it if you are interested in checking it out. But I feel like she's more she hasn't got many aspect combos for the rest, and she's not the after like from first set she could have been like a rogue deck, I would say, but since then she's just dropped down and she's more casual. Same with like Chewbacca, you're more player if you're like a fan of her and want to play like the focus, like where you might focus on Wookiees for Chewbacca, you'll focus on Spectres for Hera. Next we've got Leia, and her effect is all focused on Rebels. And we got a load of Rebels in set 1. She's pretty good in set 1, but then after that, the Rebels kind of dropped off, and we haven't had many. We've had like a small little sprinklings of Rebels over the last 2 sets, and we know for set 4 we're going to get a lot more Rebels because we saw that from the Han Solo deck. We saw that there's some Rebel cards, and even from the few spoilers we got, it's going to be more Rebels because it's going to be more Rebels focused on there. And she can get a bit more support from that. But as currently with set 3, I think she's more of a casual leader and a lot more. I did say I was going to focus on the casual, focus on like things. So I think I'm going to put her up a little bit higher because I think she is more favorite character than those two. And Leia is going to be probably like the top of casual because she's what she wants to do. Sabine does it better, and she hasn't got much support, whereas like Sabine's got more support as the set's gone on, whereas Leia hasn't got really much support in terms of that. An annoying thing is where she's already in the command aspect, you don't really want to go double green to have ECL as your base, so she kind of loses out on that. And the other bases that you can play with Tarkin Town or just 30 health common bases for the other aspects, but she's kind of outclassed by Sabine, but could be people that do like Leia and want to try her out and more in a casual setting. Then we have Boba, and this is one that actually has done well, so I'm going to put him in the rogue decks, and I think he is a little bit higher than probably a little bit less than Luke, but higher than Gar and Jabba, because he has actually done things and actually top decks, but he isn't one of those ones that is topping all the time or ones you're expecting to play against and building your deck to combat. But he is one that can do well, and because he has a nice effect where he gives a boost in power to cards with keywords, and there's a lot of keywords. The keywords are the ones that are in red, and there's a lot of good ones, like even shielded, like making shielded units, like I can't remember the name of the card now, but it's the free cost 2/2 comes in shielded and sentinel because he's got those keyword skills. Rather than be a 2/2, it's a 3/2 to make it give it a little bit more oomph when it's attacked into, and it's forced to your opponent's normally forced to attack into it thanks to shield and sentinel. So give a bit more oomph to your sentinels like that is really cool, and even the things like Luke, making him more powerful, turning it instead of a 6/7 to a 7/7 because restore. So he's got a extra 1 power. Is really cool. Next we have Hunter, and Hunter is straight away going into not really playable, and I think he's going to go in between because I think Finn actually has some sense of playability if you want to go green, but he's just not. He's just basically a worse Luke, whereas Hunter is like a favorite if you like the Bad Batch. Then he's more. I think he's liked more a bit than Moff Gideon, but he's a leader that isn't that great because he deploys very late, and he's got a whole focus on unique units, but he doesn't do anything outside of just you have to have a unit on board the trigger, and he's not really doing anything. He doesn't do anything. He's got solid stats, but a very late deploy, and he doesn't really do anything. So there's not really much you can focus on. He doesn't do anything. So I've put him there, not really playable because I've never seen him played. I've tried to make him work, but he's just very, very lackluster. Then we've got Rex, and I feel Rex is probably going to be the top of casual because like I've seen a lot of people playing him, like play with yellow or playing with green, and he can potentially do well. Actually, no, I'm going to put him in row. No, I see thinking casual because I haven't seen him doing much to many of the heroic like side of heroic command leaders. Can't see many of them doing that great, but he's good for casual. Like he's a very nice leader. Like he's got some cool options. Like I think he's cool with coordinate, even an easy way to trigger coordinate skills as well. But then he's gonna like fall short in terms of if he wants to play aggro, so like Everdex and stuff like that. But he is a favorite character, so he's pretty cool there, and be able to like be in a focus for clones if you want to focus. Like, well, technically, Nalase is a better focus for clones than Rex, because she can play all the clones, like all the clones where he can only play the clones that he's got aspects for, because otherwise he's playing more for them. Whereas Nalase can just play all the clones. But he is one of those favorite characters, and I've seen people play a lot with him, but I can't see the much appeal. I have tried him out as well, and the appeal of like him trying to be able to do well is lower than basically actually how he can actually do. Then it brings us our last one, and that is Padme, and she's straight away going in not playable because the annoying thing is they've just put too many restrictions on her effects because of the fact that not only does she need like you can't use her effect for the first 2 turns of the game essentially, unless you're playing. Well, you can if you play a lot of cheap units and draw enough cheap units and then bring them out, and your opponent doesn't leaves them alone and just does everything that just goes straight for your base, which is going to kill you faster while you try and just like search for things. And she's got to focus on Republic because you need the coordinate keyword skill, which means you have 3 units on board, which in the early turns is going to be very hard to pull off. And as well as that, you need P1 resource as well, which seems even more ridiculous that you have to do that as well as have 3 units on board. And then all she does is look at the top few cards of your deck to find a Republic unit. And when she deploys, she does have Restore, but then she's not really doing something in the first few turns of the game. But at least she's doing more than Hunter, so you take her a bit above Hunter. But she basically, it's like Hunter, she doesn't do anything, but then at least now that's only in the first few turns of the game. But as you get later in the game, then she starts doing more things. But she deploys earlier than Hunter as well, but she's still not doing anything for the first few turns, which is not what you want for a leader. So that is all the command units. So we've got once again Palpatine being the only meta leader I feel from the command leaders, and then in the next, then we just go straight past solid contenders and get straight to road decks and have Hondo, Moff Gideon, Boba Fett, and Jabba as some rogue leaders. Then we got a casual being Captain Rex, Leia Organa, Count Dooku, Hera Syndylla, and Wat Tambor. And then joining us with 3 more really not playable decks is Padme, Hunter, and Moff Gideon, being the ones that really not going to see play or are going to be that aren't really playable. So now let's have a look at the red ones and see if we can get anything even higher in the red ones, or if it's just because there seems to be like the same amount of red leaders as there are yellow leaders as well. So starting off with the first of the red leads, we got Vader, and I feel like Vader can still do quite well, but yeah, I feel like Vader is a pretty good rogue pick. You put him yeah, I guess put is in the top of rogue because he is a pretty nice one. He loads pretty well. Like you can play him in like many plays in like blue or green, but then he is outclassed a little bit by Bosk, and yeah, he's outclassed by Bosk a bit in terms of like going to either aspects because Bosk plays better in blue and Bosk also plays better, probably a bit better in green as well. But then there's different. I think Vader might play a little bit better in green, but Bosk has that option like play better by having more options in terms of like the bounties and stuff to trigger a little bit easier because he can easy way to chip away at units to have the bounties. Whereas if you put Vader in, you can't really do that as well. But you still play him very well, and he offers a bit more into like base burn as well, which has over a boss. But then yeah, boss still outshines currently in the meta. Next we've got Grand Inquisitor, and this is one that's straight away I feel is a casual deck, but I'm not sure where higher than this, but I think he'd be probably a little bit higher than these two. But he's one that seemed to be a pretty good option, like a pretty interesting like budget option for the first set. Then the second set, you think he thought would be a little bit better by having more leaders with the power range for him to make use of. But then we had the whole Boba just dominating set 2. And even then with set 3, like he hasn't seen much play because things you want to. There's ever leaders now that you can play that do a little bit better than him. If you want to play aggressive, you've got better aggressive leaders. You got to play control with him. There's better controlling leaders. Like there are leaders that do what he wants to do better, but he can be fun casually and he'll do quite well there. Next we have IG88, and I think he's going to be at the top of not really playable because he's not really playable because anything you want to do with him, any other leader is going to do better in what he wants to do. There's always going to be a leader doing better in what he wants to do, and what he can deploy quite early is quite fragile. And if you can go very, very well with lots of cheap one-drop units, you could be pretty strong, but then you've got to have those units. There's not many of those cheap units you can play out, like lots in his first early turns. And just with this traits as well, he's not very beneficial with those traits either. Like you've got some interesting you can do with him, but he's going to be outshined by any other leader, other leaders in the same aspects he wants to play. But he's a lot more playable than the rest as well in that same tier. Next we have Bosk, and Bosk is straight up going to be meta deck, and I think he might be. I think he's not as great as Palpatine, but better than Yoda, I'd say, because he's got some very good ways of playing. Like you got a very good control version of him with blue, often which can probably do better than Palpatine. We actually get some burn as well and ways to end the game by burning other things rather than just by keeping control and waiting for the life burn as well. The deck out burn. And you got a good way to play him with green as well, give you some solid options with that aspect combo. And he just basically replaced Vader as a better Vader from set 2, giving having those bounties. And even though with some other leaders that focus on a certain kind of mechanic, there are really good options for those bounties that you can make use of, and getting double claims of those bounties like the Death Mark, the ramp, the play, and the shield and stuff like that, and healing makes him just worthwhile with that. Like he meshes really well with the bounty mechanic. Probably the best leader for the bounties and the main one, really, I think, of it. Outside Jabba being the other one. Then you've got Kylo next. And Kylo, I feel, could be pretty good for Rogue, I feel. I think he could be a pretty good Rogue one, but I feel like he's quite a little bit lower down. And yeah, I think he's a little bit lower down of those two for the Rogue. Actually, no, I'll say he's probably less than Gar, but he's a pretty good Rogue one. I did have a buddy Olmo go to the Manchester event in that hosted by OPE back a little bit ago, and he did really well with that because he got a lot of people talking about his decks, and a Kylo's going I think 3-0 or 4-0 or something at that point, and just doing very, very well, but then just fell off a little bit at the end. Didn't top, but then still did pretty well for his Kylo deck, having a lot of focus on it. and because he put a lot of work into like focusing it, like tweaking it, and that was really cool. And like I feel he can do pretty well even in like yellow as well and double red. You can do some good stuff with it, and it's one of those ones that has a surprise factor the opponent won't expect, and then you can win games from that. And that brings us to the last one, being Mace Windu. And Mace Windu is one of those, like, another one of those like very late deploying leaders, but is focused on damage, damage. And I think he's more of a rogue deck. Like he has come down and started doing more. I think I would say he's a little bit higher in the rogue, probably. I'll say maybe a bit higher than those ones. Like I'll say he's fairly high on the rogue decks because you can play him nice control with blue, and I think seen people playing with double red as well. You can play with green as well, so you can wrap up a little bit higher. But I don't think he's got the like he just deploys too late, and the effect's all about damage. But you really do damage to damage leaders. You got to put some damage on them anyway before you can start doing damage to them. But then when they get damaged, they can do a bit more. But then yeah, like there's better leaders to do if you want to for control focus, like Yoda just outclasses him for that. And if you do like the mid range, you've got better leaders like Anakin, Sabine, even like Han as well to beat him in those aspect combinations. So like he is a pretty cool one as a rogue, but I don't think he's better than some of the other ones. But that is all the red leaders now. So we've seen for the meta decks, we've got Bossk and Sabine being the two new additions to the meta tier. Solid contenders, we've got 3 new ones with Anakin, Maul, and Han. We've got some more rogue ones in Vader, Mace Windu, Pre Vizsla, and Kylo. And then we've got some more ones in casual, being Ahsoka, Cassian Andor, Bo-Katan, and Grand Inquisitor. And we've got IG as our not really playable red leader. So that's going to be the last of the aspects, being yellow. And we're going to leave Boba there because Boba is suspended, so we're going to leave him. We're not going to touch him. We're going to focus on the next one we've got here. And that is Grand Admiral Thrawn. And this is one that I thought might get a little bit better, but I think he's more of a casual. Like he was like the start of playing like hard control decks in set 1, but then other leaders got tried with hard control and they were just better than him. Like he is cool in what he can do, but you like back when he was back in set 1, Boba, like why play him when you play Boba? You can focus control, and even now, like he is cool, but he doesn't offer as much utility as the other ones. But he can be quite fun to play. So I think he's more casual, and I think he'd be, just probably a little bit higher than, say probably let's maybe put him a little bit just under Dooku there. So I think he's a good casual deck, but his aspect combinations, he is outclassed by everyone's in terms of what he wants to do, being more control. Next we have Maul, and Maul, like I think Maul is a better, I think Maul could be a solid contender. I honestly think Maul could be a solid contender because he's got the great traits in like Force and Underworld. He's got a nice effect in like being able to have overwhelm as well. So like pushing, like piercing through units, like controlling board or piercing through, and you've got a good amount of ramp if you want good stuff in ramp. If you go green, good stuff in blue. Like he plays like a worse Bossk in the control color, but you can play him in other aspects as well, like double red and like to do be very, very, very aggressive piercing through units, and also yellow as well with some good underworld stuff from that. But I think he could be a solid contender. Especially the main thing I love about him is that he probably makes the best use at the moment out of Fallen Lightsaber because he can deploy a little bit earlier than the other Force units and not just immediately die, but being taken out by the turn after, and just push through. And like especially like one of the nice things probably isn't always consistent to do, but it's quite fun to do, is just deploy him, throw 2 Fallen Lightsabers on him, and just swing face at a 12-12 as a 12-12 unit. Pretty cool stuff there. Next, you've got Pre Vizsla, and yeah, this is one I think it's got potential as a rogue deck. Like I think he's rogue, probably a little bit bit higher because he's got good options just like Bossk, but a little bit. But I think he might be, I think he's a little bit less than a little bit less than Tarkin. I just realised now that I didn't widen the screen enough, but I didn't expect them. I forgot that there's a lot more leaders in it. It means that they're not going to be like split up fairly across them all. They might be squished about, but we'll see. We'll just leave it as it is. But I think previously it could be a good road deck, do the same as Boss, but they kind of have this little nifty little changes where if you get any troll with him, like you're playing with blue and get the troll, you can then do a little bit more, little bit of damage on units. And he's got a bit more synergy with the I Am Your Father card and like Pershing stuff. And there's a nice little benefit I like about being a Mandalorian, giving access to making use of the Darksaber for a very powerful leader. Because then if you get some draws and get a nice hand, you can have him come down as a 10. What was it? A 10-9, I think it is. You have him come down as a 10-9 unit. It can then start hitting hard. And if you focus on like putting some Mandalorians out, which I don't think there's many in the dark side, but you can also have that focus as well. But then having the he deploys a little bit earlier as well at 5 resources, the same time as Bosk, but earlier than the other ones, and make use of like Darksaber, making him hit a lot harder is really, really cool. And then we go on to the lightsaber. I forgot we've gone over all the dark side units. So like with the dark side of aggression, we've got a meta leader in Bosk being up there, and then we got also addition to the solid contenders being Maul. Then we've got a few more, rogue picks as well, being Vader, Pre Vizsla, and Kylo. Then we got Grand Inquisitor in the casual, and then we got IG-88 being the not really playable one. Now we're going to move on to the heroic side, and we've got Cassian Andor here. So Cassian Andor is one that I just feel is casual, but is probably a little better than these in terms of what it wants to do as a characters. But I think he might be, probably around there. He's a more casual leader. He hasn't like most leaders in this. Leaders in the heroic side of aggression are like overshadowed by things like Sabine, but there are some that kind of do something a bit better than Sabine, but a different way, and we'll see that as we come to it. But I feel like he's outshadowed by the other leaders in that same aspect. But he's got a cool effect where if you do free damage, you can draw your cards. He can draw a bit more than most leaders can. But what he wants to do and with his traits, he's kind of outshined by the other leaders in his aspect combo. Then we have Sabine straight away. That's a meta lead. I'd probably say I wouldn't say the highest one. It's the cheapest one to play. It's the cheapest to build out of all the meta decks. It was a very good one for newer players to start and try in. And he's got the like easy thing of just like mindless aggro, like just going ham to your opponent's base and not worrying. Just keep hitting hard until either you win or your opponent managed to slow you down, drain your resources, and then clap you back. Essentially, just mindless aggro. Very easy one, very cheap one as well. And it's one of the most effective tactics because it's probably the best aggro deck and the one most people fear when it comes to if you like your deck's weak to aggro, you're gonna fear Sabine. Then we have Bo-Katan, and Bo-Katan is another casual deck. I don't think it's that great. Like you have a good focus on Mandalorians, but you're basically playing like Chewbacca, and probably I could put him a little bit higher than Chewbacca. Being another one of those leaders that you focus on a certain trait or like kind of tribal, but focus on Mandalorians. And what it can do pretty well, it isn't the most effective. And I think there are better ways to play the Mandalorians than Bo-Katan, but it could be a nice one. And with the aspect combos of blue-red as well, where like most of them are in blue and red, you can get some good aspect focus on that. And with the Darksaber being a card that, if you put on the Mandalorian, you have to worry about the aspect penalty. It means you can even like not play green to still make use of the Darksaber and put on his Mandalorian leaders. So I think it's one of those beneficial ones, but it's another one like Chewbacca and Hera where you're focusing on their tribal focus of like their kind of trait, and that's how you like most likely want to play it or do well with her. Next we come to Han Solo, and I feel like Han Solo went from a meta lead to a solid contender. So I'm going to put him in a solid contender because the only problem is with you got things like Cad and Jango with like you got lots more like ping damage decks and strategies coming in, and he's great because you can play him like this benefit is you can play out things cheaper but they take damage. But where we're getting more kind of decks that can just put away chip damage out on the board and it's like just put little bits of damage out on units. The units are coming in a bit more fragile and could be taken out before you can do anything, and that's one of the kind of problems with Han now, is that while he was amazing for set 2, Now with more chip damage around, he does a little bit. He's not as effective, but he is still a solid contender you can still do well with, and you've got still the good, like, very good version of him with either yet green or even with blue as well. Next, you got Ahsoka, and this is one that I feel is another one that's more casual and probably one of those more like probably higher out in the casual deck because it's probably got more of a following due to the the Clone Wars series. And basically, what she wants to do, Sabine does better. Is essentially why she's here. Like, she is a pretty nice one. She has a focus on coordinate, means she has 3 units on board to trigger effect, but she can do that pretty well when she's deployed, and her effect when she's deployed is just in, like, buffer up. But everything she wants to do in any aspect combination is like just beaten by Sabine. I would say like beaten by Sabine. Yeah, no, every aspect combination I would say. Well, she does get some nice cool things, but like some like the Force upgrades, like Jedi lightsaber and General's blade. Still, Sabine gets the dark saber, which is outclasses those with like the stats in a sense, and also the extra boosts. But yeah, everything she'll do, she's just outclassed by Sabine, but still is like a fun casual deck that people will still play because they like the character. Next, we've got Anakin, and I think Anakin is probably the top of the solid contenders. I don't think it's meta because it is a very good you can play it in different ways. You can play him with green, blue. You can play him in any aspect combination. Probably not double red. It's probably not the most favorable one. But in his combination, he's normally beaten by. He's got someone's got a better focus in it. If you want to play his combination with yellow, you can probably better aggro with Sabine. If you're playing him as green, you can probably do pretty well. But then you have Sabine there for aggro. But you can play more mid range. And if you want to play him with blue, there's better, like, Everly is more useful, like Yoda or like Rey can do it, but he has got some nice options, especially having like a bit higher than Rey because he can have General's Blade in green as well, which is pretty nice. And he can make Frost like pretty like clapbacky turns, and has a nice bit of control. But I don't think he's a meta deck. Cause it's one that I think even you can see when we had the OPE event for the winter trip to the Grand Galactic Championships. Like you had it so you could. No, I think no, it's not had it so good. You had about 30 join in, so you had. I think you were one of the top represented decks, but then not a single copy made it into the top cut. I think they're quite like the highest one was quite far off as well, like 17th, I think maybe top 8 from top 8. So they had a lot of representation, but he just came down because he is a solid contender that can do well, but then he's not meta where like he can be taken out quite easily, and he's quite I think he's a lot more predictable in what he's going to do. Then next we've got Cad Bane, and this is straight up going to meta, and I'd say it's a higher meta deck than Yoda. Like there, I'd say, but like for the meta deck, it's one of those ones you want to play around because it's just very good. You can play it. It can kind of take over Boba's spot. You can play it not Boba's spot, but you can play it in It's a very good one to play with command as well for like the ramp and then good underworld stuff. You can play it blue for control. You can play it red, and you can even play it double the yellow. You can play it in any aspect combination and do well with it, and it's just very nice there. And the main build that's seen play is Tarkin Town because it's pink, like is the fact that you can do damage thanks to its effect whenever you play underworld card, and there have been a lot of underworld cards in the aspects it plays, mainly like his own aspect. I mean, you can easily get a bit of damage on something in Tarkin Town, so you can take control of the game from the get-go, which is really cool. Then we've got Alpha, and this is another one that I think is more casual because I think she's just waiting for us to get more cards that interact with the discard, with the drop. Not discard, I can't remember what it's called in this game, discard or drop, but the discard, I would say. There's not much that you can make use of right now, but I think she's a nice fun casual deck you can play out, maybe a little bit, I'll say a little bit higher than these ones. And she has some pretty cool stuff you can potentially try to do. But like I said, she hasn't got much going for her at the moment. And ever decks in her aspect combo will do it better. But she's got that nice potential where, like in the future, when we get more discard focused effects, she's going to be a lot more playable in just that fact. Next we have Asajj, and I think this is one that like she seems really really cool. and like another one of those that can deploy quickly. And I feel she is a pretty cool rogue deck. I'd probably say she's probably, I would say, the top of the rogue deck. You got some pretty nice cool plays with her because you essentially got every aspect combination to play with her with. Like if you go for red, you got some of the force cards like Force Throw, Fallen Lightsaber, and things like that. Force Choke. That's pretty nice cards there. Plus some really good damage cards and damage effects that kind of just ping damage around on cards and then take her out by after using effect, giving her that first shoot first effect. And she can deploy pretty quickly, so you can make use of that, and also make use of like Tarkin Town or even Shadow Collector Camp as rare bases to kind of get those benefits of the rare ones. You can play her in green and have resupply, which then gets out earlier, and then by playing resupply triggers effect to then give her a boost and shoot first mechanic, and then also things like Overwhelm Barrage, and then all the good cards that come with that aspect in the dark side. You got blue to play more control, so having things like removal cards or protection cards to keep her around, and then make use of her effect to kind of give her remove things while also boosting her up so she can start attacking in things and taking stuff out. And then you got the double yellow build as well, which just has all the access like how Boba had with those good double cunning cards that bounce things around, puts things down, and there was many good events that can then trigger effect and then have her stuff live. So I think she's really cool and very useful, but then like she's more of a rogue deck because there's other decks in her aspect combos that are kind of seeing more play and more beneficial, but she is still doing it. She's one that can utilize them if you want to try something different. Then we have General Grievous, and this one is never one that's more casual, and I think he's a little bit higher. I think he's a little, I say above Leia. Like I think he's a fan favorite character, and he's got pretty cool ones with droids, but his aspect combinations, what he wants to do, other leaders will do it better. Because you can play in the different aspect combinations, but he focuses more on droids. And what are some droids, there's not too many droids you can work with, but he does have some benefits from aspect combos. But I think he's more of a one that, yeah, if you want to play in competitively, there's going to be a leader that can do what he wants to do better. But if you want to play more casually, he's a fun one to play and try out for locals. And then that brings us to the last one for Cunning, being Jango, and that's straight up a meta deck. And I wouldn't say it's the top of meta, even though probably most people will seem like it's the top of meta. I think he is a little bit just a little bit better than Sabine, but a little bit worse than that. Yeah, sort of meta decks. The one that is like one of the most hyped decks at the moment, probably one of the like a better aggro deck than Sabine. Still doing very well for throwing through damage and basically going in the side that most people don't play and be in the space side. So he has to focus a lot more on space, having Tarkin Town to do the whole thing of doing a bit of damage so you can take control of the board using Tarkin Town's effect to kind of finish something off. So you've got board control, and then start going very aggro through the ground arena while using Jango's effect to kind of stop your opponent from attacking by pinging damage on something, resting them, so you can't really fight back. And that is the covered. We're now covered for the villainy side of Cunning, so we sort the heroic side, but got the villainy side done. And we've got two more meta decks, being Cad Bane and Jango. We got another one in Rogue, being Asajj Ventress. Then we've got some casual ones in Grievous, Admiral Thrawn, that's the one, Grand Admiral Thrawn, and Dr. Aphra as well, which is kind of just off here. So she's still here there, but just over there. And now we're going to move on to the heroic side of Cunning. So the first for the heroic side of Cunning, we've got Han, and this is also another one that's in the meta, and I'd probably say it's the top of the meta decks because it's the most versatile ones in terms of what one wants to do, like with the double kind of build. Actually, yeah, his most versatile one wants to do. He's got all different options. It can being double Cunning means it's got like answer for almost everything, and can also do resource stealing, which is not fun to have done to you, but it's something that has is something unique to him. And also you've got loads of options because where you can also smuggle things out by using tech and stuff. You can also ramp by his own effect without needing outside help to the temporary ramp, or even then permanently ramp if you use the tech and I can't remember the name of the card now. The tech and something guy come is the double Cunning guy you can play out, and yeah, he just comes down and takes your resources, and then Han will just sack it off the resource you took for them. So that way you permanently ramped while your opponent has lost a resource, which is really annoying to have against you. But also you've got some good options with him. Go green as well if you want to. You can go fun in red, and you can even play in blue, which I've seen done as well, which I think might have topped an event, like topped the Cardiff back in set 2. But he's a pretty versatile leader and probably a very strong leader to watch out for as well. Next we have Jyn, and yeah, this is one that I'm gonna put as casual because you can have fun playing casually. Like, she's not really unplayable because she has a nice effect where she can reduce, take less damage when you attack into units for units in herself, and she's in good aspect combos as well. And you can play her pretty nicely with hand control if you wanted to. Then we've got Fennec, and Fennec is probably going to also be a more of a, I think it's could be a rogue deck. Yeah, it can be a rogue deck because it can do quite nice things. I say the bottom of rogue, you can do come in and potentially, because that given ambush stuff is quite relevant, especially if you go like be an aggro, like taking out those early units. You can use the ambush to just come down, take out the units, take control of the board, and then just keep playing things in and have her come in as well, and just be a very nice aggressive deck. It's one that you might not like. It's one of those leaders which you don't see it often. So when you do see it, you might wonder how it functions. By the time you figure out how it functions, it's too late and it's just over. So that's that. And we have Lando, and Lando's one that, yeah, probably like maybe even I say is like I think like it's done some stuff, like it's played, but it's kind of dropped off. So I'll say it's more casual. And I'd say like a higher form of casual than now I say, but it's one that I think has done well. But then anything it really wants to do, it's just beat like for aggro, like it's beaten by other decks, and it's just not like you got to play very cheap units, and if your opponent like just takes control of you and just like stabilizes, you then very struggle because anytime you're smuggling things out, you're losing resources, so you aren't really gaining resources. You're just hoping to play more things that aren't in your hand to have more options and stuff, more cards to play. And then next we have the Mandalorian, and this is going to be another one casual that I think is just not the best, but it's fun to play casual, and I'd say it's like right up there, probably like the top of casual, I'd say. Probably been biased for this one in terms of placement casual, but like I said, casual is more like in terms of like character, going to be more in terms of like character than it is for anything else. But it's still like one of those ones where it doesn't do too much. Like it's got some cool stuff, but it focuses too much on the upgrades, and yeah, it doesn't play too well. Like you can have a lot of upgrades, but if you ain't got units to play them on, it's gonna be worthwhile. And if the leader's taken out quite quickly, which it can be, so getting the most benefits. But having access to things like Darksaber and go for a Mandalorian focus is pretty nice. But you got to focus if you want to get the most use of the Mandalorian focus for it. You then got to go with blue, which does have some good options, but they're not the best options in terms of Mandalorians. And then comes to the last two. We've got Chancellor Palpatine, and this is one I thought is like a solid contender, and maybe you'll be up there. Yeah, probably there just on the raid stuff because you've got the build like most people are going for like Tarkin Town builds like with leaders now to do the whole thing of like using Tarkin Town to stabilize, like take out the opponent's first unit and then stabilize the board and take control of it. But then he has a nice thing where he doesn't play. He keeps flipping back with the force. So he's dealing damage and healing. And if you go for a foot like this, the one that topped, I think in Poland, I think it was. I can't remember which. No, it might be in Italy. It was somewhere in Europe that it topped, and it was using the focus on Tarkin Town. I played it a bit on Carablast for a lot of fun, and it just focused on doing the same things what Jango wants to do, and just dropping out space units and just going aggro, but then also has that ability to kind of heal damage off yours and then do damage to your opponents by flipping back and forth, and having good access to the more aggressive side with the heroic units, and then more controlling side or damaging side with the dark side, which is pretty cool. And you can also play them in different builds, like with blue, I've played against double yellow and blue as well, like green as well. You can play him in different. He's one of those leads that you can play in all different aspects and get nice benefits. And having access to both the dark and the light side of stuff is really cool and very unique to him. And then we've got Quinlan Vos, and now I think this is another solid contender, but the top of solid contenders because he can just be played in all different aspects. Probably a little bit less in cunning, but then in all different aspects because you got like he's another one of those leaders which has the Tarkin Town focus. So you can have the whole, because he's got the same thing as Cad Bane where you can come down, ping your damage, and the only issue with his ping is it's got to be the same. You got to play a unit with the same cost as like on board to ping the damage to that card. But unlike Cad Bane, you get to choose what you ping the damage to, and then you can use the same focus with like Tarkin Town, Tarkin Town like Jango, which is like put damage to something you're playing early, finish it off with Tarkin Town, 3 damage, and then start controlling the board from there and just control. And he deploys very quickly at 5 resources, which is really early, and has some access to some really cool stuff. Being another Force unit means he's got access in red as well to Force Throw, being able to discard your opponent's hand, deal damage to your units, or to choose one from your hand to focus on how much damage you're going to be doing, and then have access to some really good cards, especially in the heroic side, for it to be aggressive in both cunning and aggression. And then you can play him also in blue to have access to things like General's Blade, or General Lightsaber, and also have access to healing as well. Some cool cards in there. And then you can also play in green, have access to General's Blade, then start playing things cheaper, and also ramp to get him out earlier as well, which is pretty cool. So very, very good options to play for him. And that is the end of the tier list as well. So if I just unlock this so I can kind of move over a little bit and kind of make it a bit more visible maybe. Let's see how I do this. Because I've realized that we've kind of cropped off some leaders, and there we go. So let's move it there. Yes, there we go. So that is, that is the tier list. So that's what we've got in the end of that. So we've got for the meta, what I feel are the meta decks that you're going to be building your deck and expecting to play against are Set One Han, Emperor Palpatine, Bosk, Cad Bane, Yoda, Jango, and Sabine. So unlike before, when it came to meta, like the the decks you're expecting to play, like the meta decks used to be just Boba and Sabine. But now that Boba's gone, there's a load more decks that's come into play, and a different variety as well that have just come in that you're expecting to play against and looking forward, looking to combat. And then for solid contenders, there's still quite a few of those. We've still got Quinlan, Anakin, Rey, Chancellor Palpatine, Director Krennic, Qi'ra, Maul, and Han Solo set 2 as solid contenders you can take to events that fight with the meta decks, and also as well as that, be ones that you might play against you have to combat as well. And you've got a load of good rogue decks you can play to kind of if you want to play something different, want to be like a little bit more spicy in terms of bringing something different to kind of try and win the event. You got things like Asajj, Vader, Hondo, Chirrut, Tarkin, Mace Windu, Mace, Vizsla, Iden, Obi-Wan, Luke, Boba, Gar, Kylo, Jabba, or even Fennec as well for some good road decks. And if you're going to locals and want something to play more fun, more casually, you've got all those leaders there: Mando, Rex, Ahsoka, Grievous, Leia, Lando, Nala Se. Nala Se is one I've been enjoying playing casually. Dooku, Thrawn, Cassian, Bo-Katan, Chewbacca, Hera, Alpha, Inquisitor, Wat Tambor, Nute, and then Iden as well if you want to for it's not Iden, Jyn for some good casual decks, casual leaders you can play for more of a casual focus at your locals. And the leaders that I feel aren't really playable, and you can put effort in to try and make them playable if you want to, but I know I've given up with them, and that is IG, Finn, Padme, Hunter, and Moff Gideon as ones. And then we got Boba there on his own because he's suspended and he can't join in with them anymore because he was just too good. But that is the tier list. So do leave some comments below on what you feel, what your views are on this. If you agree with any of the options, if you disagree, leave in the comments below to kind of discuss. It's nice to get a bit of discussion with this kind of thing. But that is it from me today. Thank you for watching. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Bye for now. Like a boss.